Hello, nonprofit leaders. I'm Sarah Olivieri, your host, and this podcast is here to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders make a bigger impact with insights, tips, and lessons learned from nonprofit leaders and experts. Having been an executive director, a board member, and now a consultant and coach, I truly understand the challenges you face. And that's why I'm here. I'm all about working smarter, not harder, so you can make a bigger impact without the burnout. And so is our sponsor, DonorBox. DonorBox isn't just a suite of helpful fundraising tools, it's a partner that helps you raise more money and supports you in retaining your donors. I love their forward-thinking approach. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. And don't forget to sign up for the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter, where you'll get bite-sized, actionable tips just for nonprofit leaders like you, delivered weekly to your inbox. Sign up at inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. Today, I want to talk about something really important around budgets and growing your nonprofit. The problem is most organizations just budget year over year, meaning you make an annual budget. Maybe you're forward thinking and you make a 3-year budget, but that is only really effective for organizations that are not in high growth mode, but are in kind of stability mode. So when you need to grow your organization, typically you're going to grow, right, your staff. You might be growing your programming, and with it, you're going to have to grow your revenue. So you're going to have a strategy that starts with a phase where you start growing how much money you can bring in. And I want you to be thinking about measuring your money on average. How much are you bringing in a month? When you're confident that you are bringing in enough money to do your next step of your phase. So maybe you want to start a new program. So phase 1 is expand your fundraising efforts in order to fund this new program. And phase 2 is to launch the new program. And then maybe you want to expand even further. So again, you're going to expand your fundraising efforts. That might mean investing in a consultant. That might mean hiring more staff, whatever it is that you're going to do. So what we're going to do, instead of laying out our budget year over year, we're going to say, okay, this is the funding target for as we increase our funding. That's going to be phase 1. And the target income is going to be the amount of monthly income that we need, or monthly revenue that we need to fund the new activity we'd like to start doing. And so we'll call that phase 1. So phase 1, you can now say phase 1 budget has basically the same expenses we have now. Or if you need to bootstrap this, you're actually going to maybe cut some activities to free up some time and money. So it's going to show your current expenses and this revenue target. And you're going to say, when we're confident that we can consistently hit that revenue target on average, and how do we do that? Let's just pause for a moment. We start tracking. So in this case, this client decided that if they could hit an average of their target for 4 months in a row, they would feel confident that they were ready to go to phase 2. And that average amount is the amount that they need to be bringing in on average every month in order to afford phase 2. So then, as long as you have not hit that average amount 4 months in a row, or whatever the amount of time you need to run your average over to feel confident in it. So we're going to stay with phase 1 budget until we are consistently hitting phase 2 revenue, right? What we need to cover phase 2 expenses. Then we're going to move to phase 2. Phase 2 has additional expenses. Let's assume that we hired a staff member for phase 2. And so now phase 2 has additional expenses, and maybe it's now just covering its own expenses. Maybe you're after more aggressive growth, like my client was. So instead, instead of adding a program in phase two is adding even more fundraising capacity. So it's hiring another staff member to help with fundraising activities. So phase one, the executive director alone was doing additional fundraising activities to raise the money to be able to bring on another fundraising expert. In phase two, we have our expenses for the new person we brought on or the new activity we've tried to do. And then, but we're waiting, but we have a new revenue target now, right? Now our new revenue target is whatever it takes to cover the next phase three, until we reach the desired level of growth. Now, once you have your budget laid out in phases, then you can start thinking about how long it's realistically going to take by estimating what the revenue increase is going to be each month and seeing when you're likely to hit your target. The other thing I should say about how we do these phased columns, right, is you're going to take what would, like, let's say you're hiring somebody, right, and you're going to employ them on a yearly contract. So let's say their salary is going to be $80,000. Then, so you'll have one column, which is what the annual equivalent of this phase is. And then you're going to have a second column, which is what the monthly breakdown is. So if you're hiring somebody and they cost 80,000 a year, we want to, in the next column, have 80,000 divided by 12. Of course, there's payroll expense and stuff like that to have in a proper budget, but that's just as an example. So we want to know what the monthly version is of that phase. How long do we stay in those phases? Well, a lot of that depends on how good the plan is. If you have a well-structured plan that prioritizes activities that not just bring in money, but have a high return on investment and have kind of a compounding effect, like major donor development has a compounding effect, right? In the first months, you might not see much money because you're building those relationships. But then, because you've been building those relationships after 6 months, a year, 2 years, it starts to compound like a snowball, right? And the money then starts coming in, and your ability with each new donor to find another new donor goes up. So it has this exponential curve. So what happened with the client who we were doing this with initially is we said, okay, well, here's a fast version where we're going to try to get really good results and work really hard initially. And then here's a slow version where we're going to assume that even though we're reaching out to new donors, it's going to take longer before we got the results. And I'll tell you that because we invested in this compounding type of fundraising activity, in fact, we did 2 types of compounding fundraising activities. The slow version took a year and 6 months. The fast version took a year and 6 months to reach the final target revenue. And the slow version, even though we were significantly slower at getting the income revenue results that we were looking for in the first 6, 8, 9 months, the target was achieved in a year and 7 months, right? So it only took 1 month longer to achieve the desired results, even when we took our time getting going in the beginning. So that's a quick overview of what it means to have a phased budget over an annual budget. Last point I want to touch on is why do we do this? So an annual budget works well if we have very predictable revenue and expenses. When we're in growth mode, we are engaging in new activities. And so our ability to predict the results of those new activities is not very strong. So when we take the phased approach, we're just following our own data, right? And so we have a much more consistent set of information. And there's basically no way we can fall short, right? Phase one our expenses are covered for phase 1, and we're not going to move into phase 2 until we have the revenue, right? So there's really no way, unless you did something, start going way off the plan, there's no way you can kind of miss your budget because you didn't guess your revenue properly, right? So remember, if you're doing new activities, if you're in growth mode, you want a phased style budget. If you are in consistent mode, you grew and now you're basically a nice, big, happy organization that's pretty much staying the same. Maybe you're tweaking, refining, optimizing to run even better. Then an annual budget can make sense for you. If this was helpful, if you'd like a more in-depth training on how to do this, or you'd like some hand-holding to get on a call with me and actually turn your budget and your plan into a phased budget, please feel free to reach out to me, Sarah at pivotground.com. I'd be happy to discuss how to do that with you. Or we can talk about joining the Thrive program as well. Again, you can reach out to me by email, or you can apply at pivotground.com/application. All that does is give me a chance to learn a little bit about you before we hop on a call so that we can make the most out of our time together. Otherwise, if you'd like weekly tips like this in your email inbox, you can go to inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up, where I am the host of the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter. Until next week, it is my pleasure to be with you every week, and I will see you then.
You've been listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode or the bonus episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share with your friends and colleagues. Tune in every week for more useful insights and wisdom on nonprofit leadership. Thanks so much for all you do for the communities you serve. Until next time, all the best.